The Oni Temple played a massive role in Crystalized, as it basically acted as the Death Star of Ninjago. Given its size, it's easy to understand why LEGO wouldn't want to make a full-scale replica, but I think we still could have gotten something a bit more accurate. And while the official set isn't necessarily bad by any means, I still decided to make my own creation, or MOC, of the structure. So here's what I ended up with. As you can see, it's a little different here with many other builds being added. We're going to take a look at each part individually, but overall I'm really happy with how it looks all together. And while it's not 100% screen accurate, I think it gets the idea across pretty well, and has some neat minifig posing options for recreating some iconic crystallized fight scenes. The actual temple itself is made completely by me, except for the 2 crystal bats at the top that came with LEGO's version. The giant Oni face was definitely the most fun part to design and build, and while I wish the horns were a little bit bigger, I really like the shaping of it. The temple itself is made of stone and earth, so I tried to give it as many jagged and sloped edges as possible, while keeping that classic Sky Island feel. Unfortunately, this was built with some very old bricks, so some have fallen victim to natural yellowing, but honestly, I kinda like it here, as it gives off more of a natural weathering vibe. This is actually kinda fitting considering the temple was ripped right out of the ground, so the weathering is also something that's depicted in the show. Dotted around the temple are a whole bunch of crystal spikes and outcroppings that have been created by the Crystal King, as well as some grass towards the front from where it was still in the ground. Up top are some of the spires and towers we see in the show, with the largest being a small recreation of the Crystal King's throne area that we frequently saw, and is also what the official LEGO set seems to be based off of. Now the most notable difference between this and the show version is definitely the entrance, since here I've built a door rather than having the Oni mouth open like the show. As much as I'd have loved to work in that function, I would have either had to make a comedically large bottom jaw that could cover the entire door frame, or just make a very small entrance, and because I wanted to be able to pose minifigs here, neither of those options seemed to work, so I instead threw the entrance just below the head because there seems to be some extra space below the mouth in the show anyway. Of course, given its size, it was only fitting that I made some kind of interior, which can easily be accessed by removing the top half of the temple. So let's take a look at what's going on inside. Here we have a combination of 2 rooms, the council chamber and Harumi's lab, with Lloyd's cage being taken from the latter. The cage is pretty simple. I had to scale it down a bit so I could fit it in the room, but I was also able to add some translucent orange pieces to represent the vent stone. In front of the cage is the iconic Council of the Crystal King meeting spot, with the table and archway seen in the show, so you can pose their minifigures around and recreate everyone's favorite Among Us choke scene. The top half can be placed back on just as easily and doesn't go anywhere once it's on, making for a neat little function, and that's going to do it for the main temple itself. You also probably noticed the extra Temple of the Crystal King set thrown in, which I added to represent those rocks that circled the island, and also just to have some symmetry. One set has a few things changed, with it being made to, for the most part, mirror the original, with elements such as the tensegrity cage being moved to the left, and some crystal bits being flipped. I really appreciate the fact I was able to keep these sets intact because, as I said before, they're really not that bad. And I do love how they look with the MOC in between, especially when placed in the middle of the crystallized shelf where you can see the rest of the sets surrounding it. And with that, I'd like to wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the MOC as much as I have, and if you'd like to see what other Ninjago builds I've done, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment what MOC you'd like to see next. All that being said, I'd like to thank you all for sticking around this far, and I'll see you in the next video.